Hello, everyone. So, I am Lukisha King, and first of all, there was someone speaking, and they were not on mute. So, um, if you all could mute your computer, so there won't be any background noise, that would be much appreciated. Thank you so much. Um, but sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulty, but hopefully we are all here and ready to go. Um, my name again is Lakeisha King, and I am really, really excited. This is my first time doing a fireside chat with the ARC at the National Convention. Um, I My business is the name of it is Link Support Services. I live here. Hi, Susan. Um, I live in Gainesville, Florida, and I have worked at the ARC of Alachua County. I've worked there. I have worked there for about 8 years, and then I transitioned into my own business, working with people with developmental disabilities as well. And so I have my own agency where I do, and I don't, I guess we all know that I do personal supports, supportive living, companion, respite. Um, so I hire individuals who come in and take care of the clients, the population that we all serve. And so I've done that for many years. I enjoy what I do, and so I also am I work at one of the colleges here as well, working with the same population. So today I am doing a session on sex education. Before I get started, are there any questions or anyone want to do any introductions before I get started? Okay. Um, so um, I am a sex educator, and I became a educator through Elevators training. Has anyone heard of Elevators training before? Um, no. Well, Elevators training. I researched and researched and researched to look for a company that would give me some guidance in terms of sex education for my clients because, as you know, um, our clients that we serve, they do they are sexually active or want to be sexually active, and with me being a provider and being a business owner, being the president of that company, I wanted to have more training and being and dealing with the responsibility of in terms of being able to talk with my clients about um, sex education and as well as being able to talk with the parents about what their son or daughter was wanting to partake in and what was and how what was my role in facilitating that if that was um, my role per se. So I wasn't fully comfortable in that role, and I reached out to my departments and to my overall top head, and I didn't get very much help in that in my questions. So I reached out and found a training company, a not a training company, but an educational program that mainly dealt with the population that we serve. And so I was very, very excited and happy about that because it helped me with some of my reservations about um, getting started in that and helping them with setting up being in relationships with them. And so let's see. Yes, I'm a sex educator as well. So Meredith, let's see, where's Meredith? Meredith, if you could say hi to me so I can see you. But well, hello, Meredith. Hi, Meredith. Nice to see you. So and then Amanda would love more information, and Mary Kay, would you please record the session? Yes. Oh, it's already recorded. So I can also give you the information of how you can get this session recorded as well if you would like. Um, in when I took the course, it opened up my eyes in terms of how there was more people who was interested and who felt the same way I did as well. So when I reached out to the ARC to offer this course, I set up some questions that will help me get started with this fireside chat. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with I'm gonna send out one question and see if we can get a good banter going back and forth. So one of the questions was um, that I had was, what supports or guidance do you guys use when talking to our population about sex, or do you guys talk to your population about sex? Does anybody want to start?
I'll start. One of the trainings that we did, we've got two of us here from the Arc of the Ozarks. We did a training with one of our TCMs here, and it was really about starting the conversation is starting about healthy relationships and understanding our bodies. So that's
Mhm.
really where we start is, what is a good and healthy relationship? And what does that look like? And understanding, our body and what our body parts are really called, and first that education piece, and then understanding what is a healthy relationship, whether it be a healthy sexual relationship or an emotional relationship. So it was a lot based on that. That first piece was on how to identify a relationship and if we're putting ourselves out there for potential abuse.
Right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Because when once I took the program, and and I came back to my staff and talked with my staff about it, a lot of my staff has the misunderstanding that they would talk with our population based off their cognitive ability and not their biological, not biological cognitive focus and not the biological focus. And it should be based off the biological focus because our population knows more about sex than we think that they do. And so you want to really talk to them and communicate with them based off of, like you said, Elizabeth, about body parts. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about um, how are you, because they have a feeling just like when we were young, we had feelings that we didn't know that we might not have been able to talk about when we were young. So let's talk about how you're feeling, what's going on there. I did have a client that there's a YouTube videos that I love. They're called amaze.org. And there's a little girl on there, and they're cartoon like, and they talk about body parts. They talk about um, what does it feel like. What does it feel like when if it has a tingling feeling, what does that feel like? What is that? Let's talk about that. And there's many videos. It goes into sexting in terms of texting and texting when you're sexting on the phone, or if somebody's trying to pressure you. So it starts off because our clients are visual, and and it's best to talk to them where they are in terms of giving them a lot of visuals in terms, and so where it's visual and it's kind of cartoon, depending on if they are on that level of watching cartoons, or if they're more on the level of I'm not a baby. So you'll know in which aspect to where you can talk to them about um, the sex education, on what level you're going to approach them at. Let's see, in the chat. Monica Santiago says, I usually do not, since my role is an education advocate, focusing on faith. So, but I can see where this may be a needed addition to our advocacy since it is addressed in schools and as part of transition education and planning. Well, with advocacy, you want our population to self advocate because they have the right as well to learn about sex education because there is a miscommunication um, that our clients are asexual, that they're not sexual, and that's not true. And so you do want to be able to have that conversation with them as early as possible and to give them the empower them to say that I do want to know. I do want to know how I'm feeling, why I feel this way. um, I do like this young man. Um, and he does, he does do things that I don't understand why he's doing this. Or I do want to kiss him. Is it okay to kiss him? Um, and to be able to have that door open to where they can talk to the staff who they see almost every day and to be able to confide in and then to so they can also so there'll be no room to eliminate the room for being taken advantage of. We want them to stay safe as possible. um, Noah Tia says, do you include sex education with consideration towards the LGBTQ plus community? Yes. So we also talk about we include that in the conversation in terms of talking about pronouns, talking about opening up the door for questions about sexuality, talking about gender, and because sometimes our clients, um, sometimes they cross lines and they have questions about it, and so they might nowadays they may want to know more about um, their options, and so you want to be able to have that option to where that communication, that line of communication is open. Um, and then Dawn Davis says, um, her comment, it says, also so important to empower people to say no and practice saying no and being listened to. That's very important even with people who don't have developmental disabilities. There's so many people who don't feel like they can say no or somebody's not listening to them. Um, and
Can I talk on that for a second? Hi,
yes,
I'm
ma'am.
Thea. I'm from New
Yeah.
Mexico. And but in addition to saying no, we also talk about how do you ask for what you want. And then what are the different types of touches when it comes to sex so that they know and they know what the different types of touches are, so that they know what they want and they could ask for what they want in addition to saying no to what they don't want. And
Mhm.
so that's something that we do as well. And we have statewide socialization and sexuality services as part of the DD waiver in New Mexico. And so we incorporate the socialization part with the sexuality because it's a lot of problem solving, conflict resolution when it comes to relationships, right? And knowing the difference between a healthy and an unhealthy relationship, and then proceeding on to dating and touch and sex and reproductive anatomy and all of that.
Thank you.
Something else I would add, I'm Lindsay DeVries. I'm a psychologist in Colorado. One thing that I think is also important to add to the conversation about consent is accepting no, even if it's not maybe the answer that you want to hear. I think
Yes.
oftentimes that can be really challenging, especially when there are messages kind of in our culture in general about, well, they said no to you, but maybe just try again or ask again. And accepting that no response and being able to move forward with that, and how that's important for healthy relationships as well.
Yes. Thank you, Lindsay.
My name is Bob Peterson. I'm a field advocate, and I receive services in an agency, and in my state of Illinois, we just passed a uh, things indicated they'll have in the taught in the agencies. So my thing is very. I agree with everyone that spoke so far, and it's very important that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities do know about sex because trust me, uh, we we all have girlfriends. And if we don't have girlfriends, we have feelings and we do things and and I have friends of mine that I've seen. If we're not being educated about it and we're not being someone's not teaching us, we're going to do things in places that are not appropriate. So teaching people about that and doing it in a responsible and safe environment is best, and I figured that I would say something because I live within the system, so I know firsthand what I see and how I feel myself.
Thank you, Bob. Let's see. Any other questions or comments?
Ma'am, this is Michael Rogers, and I'm sorry I was late for your presentation. One, I would love to see the whole thing. I was late, so you might have said this already, so forgive me. But I do thank you for touching the subject. Like, we don't want to touch this with a 10-foot, 50-foot pole most of the time. But I was wondering if you would be interested in doing like a where we could get a email link going so we can keep it going after the conference is over, because I think this topic is so huge. I happen to have cerebral palsy and just finished a conference on disability and sexuality, but it's like, generally speaking, we don't touch this with a, like I said, a 50-foot pole. So if you don't, if you would be interested in doing an email, maybe we could do an inside group about the people that are in this session to have this continue more than just for the hour or what's left of it. So just a thought for you to contemplate, because I think to people see us.
Are you still there, Michael? Um, Michael, if you come back, you can finish. I think we lost you, but sure, I don't mind doing. I'm going to share my email in the chat. I don't mind because I do understand. This is a conversation that even in my area, no one wants to talk about it or want to address it because it is tough to talk about. It is tough to deal with for whatever reason. But for me, I um, I wanted to just because I wanted to I wanted to help my clients and I wanted to be and uh, I wanted to be correct and I wanted to be transparent and I wanted to make sure that I was fair and in the right in dealing with everything correctly because I was the provider. I'm still the provider. I'm the president of my company. And ultimately, it is my responsibility if something was to happen or if something was to go wrong. And it's my name and my Medicaid number and everything. And so I wanted to, if I'm going to have this responsibility, I needed to make sure that I have the education in all ways, in all shapes, fashion, and forms, in terms of this couple, taking on this action, as well as in following the protocols of what it needed to be done, because it's more than just the act; it is a responsibility and teaching the young women on how to on how to keep themselves clean and healthy, as well as the men, as well as what is your responsibility afterwards. As you're making sure it's not just a wham bam thank you, and if it is just a wham bam thank you, then it is how do you act after that? How do you make this young woman feel, you're responsible now. How do you make sure this young woman doesn't feel bad afterwards? It's
Right.
it's a huge topic, and it can't just be taken on lackadaisical. So sure, I don't mind.
The other, the other thing, and I'm sorry, I got lost for a second, is it's a little bit different. I wonder if you agree because of COVID these days. I mean, it's
Yes.
just like, you know, I mean, you can't even go outside or without a mask on, and everybody wear a mask. Please understand, okay? But if it's hard to have sex with a mask on. All right, so it's it's time to wait for that kind of thing. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So
Um,
like, I don't know if you guys can hear me. I'm having some technical difficulties over here. But my name's Emmanuel, and I work. First of all, I'm from Delaware, and I work for the Delaware Development Delaware Developmental Disabilities Council. But on
mhm.
top of that, I also own my own nonprofit serving people with disabilities and their families. And I actually got involved several years ago with a program here in Delaware called STAN. And STAN, at the time, stood for Stop the Abuse Now in Delaware. And that whole curriculum is actually taught by individuals with disabilities. And we cover, of course, we cover everything about abuse and topics like that, but we also cover the conversation of sex and the multiple layers of that. Um, so when I came to work for the council, um, and as many of you have said, this is something that people don't want to talk about. Because God forbid if you got a disability and you want to go and have a relationship and um, as a parent myself of a 14-year-old, when I used to take my son out into the public and people would see us together, oh my God, is that your son? No, I just kidnapped somebody's child. Um, because people couldn't believe it. Even to take it a step farther and say, when my wife used to be in public, we were literally at a mall, and this lady, and I've been married for 12 years, and this lady was literally across the mall yelling, excuse me, man." And finally, my wife turned around and was like, "Yes," and she was like, "Is that your brother?" And 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 I told my wife is more like fireballish than I am. Um, so usually I'm the one to step back really quickly. But she took a moment and she was like, you know, she almost couldn't believe it. So I told my wife, I said, I can't let this slide without educating this person because again, we go back to that responsibility. It's my responsibility to educate this person. So I went back and I said, um, first of all, I appreciate your question because that question comes from you not knowing.
Right.
So so based on that, we were able to talk it out. But it was because she never could fathom the idea that um, someone with a disability could be in a full relationship because it's usually the idea of is that your son, is that your nurse, all of the things except what it is.
Mhm.
But I say that to say this: when it comes to the educational idea of sex, it's so beneficial to have other people with disabilities deliver the message
Amen.
because there's a commonality of understanding, and I can tell you from experience, and I spoke in some big crowds, but I can tell you when I spoke with big name people, those wasn't the messages that people remembered. It was when I surrounded myself with other people with disabilities to deliver a message of true understanding. So understanding that people have degrees and know what they're doing, and I commend the work that you guys are doing. But everything that I sit on, I always take it back to we need to put people with disabilities and the roles and responsibilities to help other people understand. Because if I knew what I know now, a couple of years ago, I probably would have a 14-year-old. Until I was ready, because once he hit 14, I said, "What the hell did I do?" Excuse my language. Uh, because at a teenager age, it's different. So knowing that I couldn't chase him around or you know stop him from running out the door because he's mad because I made him take out the trash, you know. So not only don't you don't get a guidebook for having a child, but when you have a disability, there are other things you have to
Mm.
consider. So
Yeah.
not only what's the proper way for a relationship, but what's the proper way, as you said, what are the responsibilities after the fact? How do you raise your child in a safe manner? Is it time management? Is it you know um, putting the bottle in the microwave for not too long? Are you tilting it the right way? Those things. And I think sometimes when we talk about sex education, we we stop right after the idea of relationship and sexual intercourse when there's a whole nother component after the fact.
Right.
Mm.
Thank
This is not again. I totally agree with you. Like we all say, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities have to be stable, but like 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 he said, having creating a kid is fun and enjoyable, but it's all of the work afterwards. But the most important thing about the whole thing is education, and usually, most importantly, when you live with the provider 9 times out of 10 don't want to don't want to be responsible or cannot be responsible, so that's why they uh, uh, do everything. That's why they say absence is the best practice, but you know it's true. But at the same time, we all want to have a family. But how do we have a family and with a disability uh, um, and keep our kids from uh, getting a gun if we have a gun in the house and doing things that are doing things that I can't help with as far as raising them and so on and so forth and that I would like to uh, what he said is it's what you do after the fact that is important, and that's why education for me and for everyone with an intellectual disability is important so that they know what important touch is or safe touch and all that stuff is important. But just 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 knowing what your responsibility after it would be. But when you live in an agency, it's sort of hard to even get to that point. Is my point. So there. Sorry I
Thank,
took so long.
thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Emmanuel. I would like to keep in contact with both of Emmanuel and Bob because if I could have you guys emails or back and forth because in case I do have other events, I could have, another Zoom session to where I can have you guys speak as well. That would be great as well to keep in contact. So we could have some more um, back and forth. So we could do some more communicating back and forth. If that would be okay.
That's fine.
And
It,
as well with you, Emmanuel, as well. Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
Michael.
and ma'am, I mean, I know I was late, but I thank you very much for doing this. I don't read well, so if it's okay if I can do something real fast and give you my telephone number that I can get text, I would appreciate it. If you just text me your email, it'd be great. 206
Mhm.
618 4156. And I'm doing that because I have dyslexia, so reading that thing back and forth is hard. So thank you so very much.
Okay, I got you, Michael. And then Elizabeth asked about wanted to talk about conversations with guardians that are needed about sex education. And so that was one of the questions I had as well about how do we talk to the parents about sex education? Does anyone have any experience talking with parents about sex education? Yes, Emmanuel?
Yeah.
So, I told you I've been around for a long time. Uh, um, um, but and two, both of my roles, not only as a state employee, but owning my own business as well. Um, we and when I say we, the council that I work for has a partnership right now with um, and this name is not popular by any means, because there's some misconception there. But we have a partnership with Planned Parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
But the component of Planned Parenthood that we work with is the sex education department. So normally before before people woke up, the conversation used to be uh, let's tell people not how not to have sex and have relationships. Uh, so when we joined partnership with Planned Parenthood, the young lady who teaches our classes is a person with a disability, and she
Mm.
just happens to work at Planned Parenthood, and we do workshops specifically for parents. And one of the things that we realize is, um, parents are always going to have a level of fear, but we want to, we don't want to get rid of your fear. People used to say, get rid of your fear, get rid of your fear. But we want to teach you how to work with that fear, how to, um, um, how to set expectations for all your children with or without a disability. So
Right.
one of the things that we really started doing was allowing parents to have an open, free space. Normally, trust me, the conversation of sexual anything when it came to my child, even though I do this for a living, I was like, oh my God, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. um, the first time the first time you gotta like say, okay, it's time for you to do your own laundry. Uh, when 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 that happened, I was like, I don't care how many degrees I got. This is not, let me call one of my coworkers and let them know it. But, but I couldn't get away from it. So when we started working with Planned Parenthood, we really wanted to focus on how do we deliver the message in a way where this parent doesn't feel like, that this is foreign. So, giving them an open space to talk about all the components, the especially for females, the first time, I call it the first time experience because the first time is never, even for me, it's never what you thought it should be based on. And now we have media, TV, everything at our fingertips. So I say all of that to say this: we give people that free space without a whole bunch of we only want to hear this part or that part. And we found that when we give people open space, they're more open. Two, they're more receptive to the conversation. So naturally, you have people in the audience or people in the group who have already experienced those things. So you let them naturally kind of talk it out. But we did this on a larger, and I'm talking about thousands of people to the point where we got to, now because we're virtual, we got to have multiple Zoom links because it's so large. But definitely giving people open space to speak freely, you'll get a lot more understanding out of people that help them work through it.
Hi, this is Tona Collins, and I work for I'm a child and adult advocate with the Arc of Arapahoe and Douglas counties. And it's interesting that that this is one of the subjects at the conference, because I actually have one of my families, a parent of one of my clients, just last week, the mother was just, beside herself, because she said she has 3 boys and 2 of them are in college, and her youngest son has a disability. And for whatever reason, she said, well, I just never expected this from him. And I guess a lot of parents, for whatever reason, they feel like if their child has a disability, then they don't have sexual feelings. And that's a misconception that a lot of my parents have. And so I've had this conversation with her because she walked in on her son, and she said that she was just floored. She said she was horrified. And I said, why? And she said, because I just didn't expect that from him. And I said, why? And she said, because he's my boy, he's my son, he's the youngest. And I said, but he's still a boy, and he's a human being, and he still has urges, just like your other 2. And so it took a lot for her to wrap her head around this. And so she's like, well, what do I do? And I said, well, you're going to have the conversation with him just like the other 2. And so I'm glad that I'm sitting in on this, because it was hard for her to accept that her son, which just happens to have a disability, is also having these urges.
So he's having sex with himself. Good for him.
And he's the baby boy.
Right. But I'm like, honey, it's gonna happen. You know, the only thing that you need to educate him on is that it's, you know, to let him know that what he's doing is not wrong, but there's a time and a place.
Right, and that's the most important part is that educating to where letting our clients know that there is a special place. You do this in the privacy of your home at the right and at a certain time at home
Right.
and in the privacy of your home behind closed doors, not for everybody to know. And it's and you keep it and you keep yourself respected and your partner respected. And so there again there is a responsibility to being sexually active. And if there's something and you don't, it just the same way that you would teach a child who doesn't have a disability to be respectful and not to not to just do it, because if you don't train a child in the way they should go, they will ultimately make bad decisions. And so you don't want to not train train a child, because if they learn it in the street, then they learn it the wrong way.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're gonna learn about cheeses in the castle without thinking about it.
Yeah, this is about it. I just wanted to say to the presenter, I put my email address in the chat box,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I don't know if you see it or not, but it's there.
Let's see. I see Emmanuel's. Thank you, Emmanuel. I see.
Yeah,
Yep,
Rogers.
yep, I see Bob.
Can I get our cards with my email address?
Okay.
Yes, I got you, Bob. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think when it comes to the conversation, the the idea of the parents saying, "Do I gotta have that conversation with him too?" We all agree that the answer would be yes, but we must also keep in mind that the conversation itself would it needs to happen. The delivery of the conversation may be different. So the idea to wrap your head around, do I gotta have this conversation? You do, but keep in mind the delivery of what you say may need to be a little different. Now I can tell you because I've always had my disability, and give me one second, my computer's trying to. I use voice dictation and it's trying to write what I'm saying, so I apologize for that. But I can tell you from experience, um, you know, if anything, I think because we deal people with disabilities or some of us deal with social isolation. If anything, I had as a young boy, I had more urges because I was pretty much always alone.
Mm-hmm.
And now in the world of 2020, as I said earlier, everything's at your fingertips. So kind of back to your point, if you don't teach someone, they're gonna do it. They're not gonna do it right, but they're gonna do it. So,
right.
I think the idea of, oh my God, do they have sexual urges? If anything, they may have more sexual urges because of the social isolation.
Right. Mm-hmm. Was there someone else that had something?
I just wanted. This is Michael. I just think one of the things that I think is that it's kind of important because most people have the ability to use something like the internet to buy a toy or whatever, and if you have trouble with your hands, he was talking about using voice. Well, you can't use Amazon on that stuff if you have trouble with your hands to order the things that you would order. So don't be flipped out if somebody says, "Would you help me order a toy?" I mean, if you could do it on your own, you normally would do it on your own. But be okay. I mean, I'm asking how you would deal with that, because I think that's a right, that they have the right to do it. They save the money and they can do it. But again, getting the access to it is a different thing. So I was just curious what you think of that.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Emmanuel. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't sure if he was directing that directly to me.
To everybody. I mean, I wasn't trying to be out.
Right.
But I'm like, if I wanted to buy a toy, everybody else can say, go to Amazon. Well, if you can't read well and you can't type, then you're up a creek. So I just thought I'd ask you guys a question. Maybe that's a little bit out of bounds. I'm sorry.
No, that's a great question. That's a great question, because especially and I don't like the whole thing of, the disability community and the regular community. I think it's one big community, but that's a whole nother conversation. But
amen, brother.
But especially you mentioned something very, very important to this conversation: access to those things. One of the things I often talk about with my group is trust. Now when I go and ask a stranger to help me purchase a toy on Amazon, or would it make more reasonable thing for me to ask my longtime best friend or someone I'm comfortable with? Again, I think it goes back to, is this appropriate right now? And I think what happens is we sometimes feel like, well, if I want to buy this toy, it doesn't matter who I'm going to ask, they're going to help me buy this toy. Right. And I think it must come down to timing, who it's with, and do I want, one, can I trust them? Two, do I really want everybody in my business? It's almost like calling the fire department or calling the police to put out a fire. No, you want the fire department to come with their hose to put out the fire. So, it must be appropriate to what you're trying to accomplish. Now, granted, all of us might not have a whole slew of people to choose from, but when it comes down to anything involving sex, you must create that safe space and people that you trust to have those conversations. It's almost like asking somebody to go to the store and buy you some condoms. Would you ask a complete stranger, or do you want it to be somebody that you trust that are going to go and get you the condoms without blasting it all on social media that you just asked them to go get condoms?
Right. Because I've struggled with how to order it. Not that I don't have the money, but how to order it myself. That's my thing. That was my issue, and I'm still trying to figure that out, because I have an awkward situation. I work for DDA. It's like I don't tell, leave that at home.
And then one of the things we can, we can talk about this offline too.
Sure.
What's available for you to become independent in that choice?
Right.
Is it even possible for you to become independent? Is it through, and I'm not saying this is an example, but is it through using Alexa, or is it using Google, or is it using some assistive technology for you to be able to place those orders?
Alexa, turn off.
And your see, Alexa's already listening. But really helping you find a way to be able to, because I can tell you, and like I said, I've been married for a while. The first time that we thought about purchasing something off of Adam and Eve, and when I realized my wife was comfortable with it, I was like, oh my God, no more worries. But at first it was like, okay, how do I, how do I approach this conversation, and how do I maybe I maybe I want to surprise her and go
Right.
order my own thing.
Right.
So
Right.
really finding a way to be independent within that process, because again, it goes back to it is your right, but let's find the right way to do it. Sorry to be so long-winded.
Thank
with
you.
and with that, go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
And the thing is when you talk about independence, there are all kinds of different levels of independence. But when you say, okay, I'm gonna order something on line, and I'm gonna go to Amazon and say, uh, get the uh, get the toy to make it easier. The uh, the question is, how do you do that? And like someone said, if if you don't have an Alexa and you don't spell very well, or
Right.
you don't spell well enough to type exactly what you're looking for, if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, you're gonna end up with something that's not gonna work. So for most people that don't have the ability to type or speak, how how do they do that? And I guess
That
I'll ask Daniel, how would you approach that?
that's a good question.
I am so sorry. Can somebody repeat the question, or Bob, can you repeat it for me? I'm sorry, I was trying to multitask over here.
He was saying, and Bob, tell me if I read you wrong. If you can't spell it, or if you don't spell it the right way, you're gonna get the wrong product, right? So, and that's like if you to spell it in, if you have verbal dilemmas with the speech and so forth. So, that's what I believe. That's what he was saying.
If if you can't spell well and you can't speak well,
Yeah.
how would you make sure that you're right that you're gonna order the right thing off of Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay, great question, and I can tell you that's the first time I had that question. But I get questions like this all the time. So first and foremost, even the uh from experience, I think we all have ordered stuff and you know got it. It was like, okay, this is totally not what I was looking for. Um, 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 but one of the things I will say, um, in order to be able to do that comfortably, you again building those right supports. Now I can tell you, um, ordering anything is difficult. Even trying to order Grubhub in the middle of um, COVID, and make sure you take off the lettuce and tomatoes. It's so complicated. But one of the things I've realized in my life, again, building those natural supports around people that I trust. Now, there are times I want to do things on my own, and I don't want my wife to know because I want it to be the Big Bang Theory and surprised and bells and whistles and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so what I'll do is I'll order it to the best of my ability, but I'll make sure that I'm aware of the process to um, return. And in most things like that, are of course you gotta like not use it and make sure it's not open and those things. But being aware of the return policy, and again, this goes back to education. What's the proper way to order something? What's the you know, is it a money back guarantee? Is it a 15-day return policy? Um, Even down to how to use said said thing that you order. You know, is it waterproof? Is it what's the proper way to clean whatever the toy is? So again, it all goes back to education. But I'm willing to have this dialogue, even deeper, because again, I think that's another educational component of conversation that we really don't go into.
Yeah.
Hope I answered your question the best I could, but
Thank you so much. And Emmanuel, you are a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you helping and talking with Bob as well as with Michael. But I hate to bring this to and close to an end because we was till 2 o'clock, but we were going. It was such a good conversation that we had. And there's one thing that I wanted to say about ordering stuff online, as well um, as well as videos. We want to make sure that we do educate, and as well as downloading things on your phones. We want to educate, and that we do educate and teach our clients and our friends and our neighbors about when we do download that stuff or when we do buy it. Everything needs to be in the privacy of your home behind closed doors. But also, when you download items onto your phone, make sure that you close it out. Make sure that you close it out, and make sure that you don't get any viruses on your phone. But also make sure you close it out, because you could easily put your phone down, and then say you're at an auntie's house or a friend's house, and a little kid picks it up, and that phone and that screen comes up again, and that screen could be there, and that child could see that, and somebody could get a wrong impression. So that's why you want to be able to make sure that that educational part is there, that you close that down, because that there's nothing wrong with watching videos, as long as it is appropriate videos, of course. Always adult videos, nothing childlike, nothing dealing with children, but adult videos, adult adult material that you're buying. But also always close it out. Close it out. Make sure it's X out. That it does not pop back up, and someone can see that, and then they're knowing what you're watching, because people can take that and have a bad and make an assumption that's not true of what you were doing in the privacy of your own home. So that's why we want to fully educate, that you can never have enough education about sex education. There's never can be enough education about it.
I don't see a period in my email, but it should be my first name dot my last name, and both of those are my email. And I suggest, if you really want to get a hold of me, use both of them.
Okay.
Because I'm on, even in the middle of COVID, I'm always on the go, especially in the virtual world now. So I'm kind of hard to get a hold of. But if you use both emails, then you'll get a quicker reply from me.
Okay.
Cool.
We can definitely also try to keep this conversation going. I do know that I did put my email in the chat, and my website, and this is recorded. And if the ARC wants to bring me back again and we do this again, we're more than welcome to. But um, this was great, and if we want to do it again, I can do another Zoom session on my own, and we can continue the conversation. We can break it down in parts, and talk about certain objects, certain subjects
It-
in sex education. We can break it down. So feel free to reach out to me, and we can continue the conversation.
I'd say, I'd say ditto.
This is the only thing is, I'm talking to the presenter. If you can email me, that would be great, because me trying to find your email through all these
Okay.
decisions would be over before I could
Yeah,
find it.
I hope to.
So
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea
I,
for you to just send out an email to all the email addresses that you've gathered
Mm-hmm.
and just see if everybody would be interested in doing another Zoom call and see how it goes. I apologize, Bob, if I interrupted you.
I was, that's okay. I was talking to you. I was, you said that you put your email.
ditto. I'm like,
You put your email in the chat, but what I was asking of you is if you could email me, if you could email me, that would be easier for me. Otherwise, I would be on here all day looking for your email, and this this this
that's what.
session is going to be over, and I won't email you because I won't have your email address. So if you could email me, that would be great.
Okay. Yes, I'll do that.
Okay.
You're awesome.
Bob,
You're awesome.
I agree. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I can't find it, so I'm hoping she would email everybody because I'm already lost. So I look forward to your email and keep up the good work, and hopefully we can collaborate on some stuff and keep this conversation going.
I'm glad.
Definitely.
I'm glad that you. I'm glad you agree with me because I'm like looking. I'm like looking through all these emails. I'm like, okay,
Okay.
where's her email at?
I definitely will reach out. I definitely will. Jaleesa,
Hi, Lukisha.
I I will I want to get everyone's email so
Okay.
I can reach out to everyone. And I would also like to get a recording as well.
Okay.
And then I believe whoever asked for a recording, they would too.
Yes.
But if I
Yes,
could
please.
get everyone's email, because I know it's in the chat, but it has gone
no.
up and down, up
Oh,
and
yeah.
down.
I have a report. I will send it to you.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. And everyone, please have a great day. Please stay safe. Please stay safe.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
You
And I
so
was going to
much.
say,
You're
Lukisha,
welcome.
when you get a copy of the recording, it will have everything in the chat too.
Oh, it will?
Yes, they usually do.
Okay. Okay, good.
It's unreal. That was
Thank you,
awesome.
Pat.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry I missed it.
No, you didn't miss it.